on his gravestone was written, "Why so early?" So, having worked in music for 10 years, we would have never had the concept of starting a conference by 9 o'clock. Well, something is wrong with the internet anyway. Welcome to Berlin and to our international guests. Experience Berlin. It's a fascinating city, we believe. 20 years ago, divided, and now a fantastic, roaring, lively city. Enjoy it. And please confirm all your prejudices about the Germans, stubborn, not creative, and other than the Dutch, no sense of humor whatsoever. Please enjoy Berlin. Welcome to Berlin. Data love is the motto of this next conference. A positive, I think a pleasant motto, but which at first look seems to sound like it sees the world through rosy glasses. Many of us here act out of our personal love of data, both professionally and privately, from a non-committal love long ago. For many, it has now become a very strong bond. But relationships normally only work well in the long term when they are maintained. Our relationship with data certainly exhibits some special characteristics. Firstly, it is more or less impossible to end it. According to a survey, 62% of Germans would prefer to delete all personal data about them, which is circulating on the internet. Also, normal everyday tasks such as shopping, banking, or contacting family increasingly involve using digital data exchange. If we want to or have to accept these challenges, then an intensive working relationship is necessary so that this bond works. Because as in every relationship between users and data, there are both good and bad aspects as well as huge challenges. It is said that in a relationship, both partners should be on equal terms. This becomes difficult when one party outgrows the other. And that is the first difficulty. Data, or rather the amount of data, is growing rapidly. Every year, the amount of data on the internet is expected to grow by 60%. Along with this, the abundance of information that users either voluntarily or involuntarily are confronted with will also increase. It will increase because the number of channels through which this information is transported will also grow in number. With laptops and smartphones, everyone is reachable virtually everywhere. Simultaneously, the frequency of which news, pictures, comments, and videos reach us is also increasing, and hence, so does the pressure for your own network to be permanently attainable. For most of us, a weekend or a long-distance relationship is hardly working. So, who organizes this wealth of information? Some even speak about a flood of data which prevents people from real life. A study from Braunschweig-based brain researcher Martin Korte even showed that through massive internet consumption, concentration, and language competence both suffer. A decade ago, this question of information flow could be answered relatively easily. It was relatively one-sided, showed clear hierarchical patterns, and was always interwoven with political and economical power. Large media companies, news agencies, and those who have influence on their daily outputs dominated the media coverage. Individual journalists who opposed the system constraints often had a very hard working life. If we believe the media experts who celebrated Web 2.0 as counterpublic, then things have changed. The global network creates direct, worldwide communication channels which were previously thought unimaginable. Theoretically, on the internet, anyone can connect with anyone else and share their own ideas. The Media Act in 2006, you maybe remember, paid tribute to this development by equating bloggers with journalists. So nowadays, everyone who has an internet connection can be a journalist. This does, however, have consequences in the negative as well as in the positive sense. Diversity of information has definitely become greater, at least in terms of quantity. So we are all journalists. And as journalists, you are certainly not naive enough to believe that the course of free and open communication is free from the influence of those in power and in politics. The big players in the internet, such as Google, Facebook, and others, have the technical capability to decide at any time how and where information flows, and even have access to information that users do not disclose. So, the whole world, an electronic magazine and no editor-in-chief, how ambivalent communication through the channels of the internet is shown by the example of the Arab Spring Revolution. The prominent role the internet played in bringing the people from Casablanca to Amman onto the streets has been discussed extensively. Even the phrases Twitter or Facebook revolution were often heard and read. And I didn't like it because, after all, it has been the people who made the revolution and not a platform. The young people behind the smartphones and the computers, the oft-quoted bloggers and the internet activists, prevail per se as the good guys. The political communication over the internet as the embodiment of democracy and freedom. But these communication channels are also being used by people pursuing totally different aims. Who is behind appeals and statements on the internet is not always clear, which brings with it advantages and obviously disadvantages. Even radical groups are involved, and any Arab dictator who claims to be somebody will employ a team of internet-savvy associates who use internet communication for their own purposes. If you remember, when in Syria, the first people who went out onto the streets were very much surprised by President Bashar al-Assad taking the step to make Facebook accessible to Syrian users. What initially seemed to be a very friendly and open gesture certainly made the work of the country's many secret services that much easier. In addition, Assad constantly fills his Facebook wall with new appeals, videos, and status updates. The page had 175,000 fans last week, even if it may certainly be disputed whether all these users are real people. This shows that social media and other online services are not being used by just the good guys, who, in our view, stand for positive values. No matter how big the love of data is, none of us can get around working hard on the relationship. On the one hand, this means developing new ways of filtering the flood of data pouring in every day and filtering the important from the unimportant, as well as the authentic from the less authentic. On the other hand, everyone who puts information and data on the internet is facing a major challenge. This is a task for every user, but especially those that actively dedicate themselves to the network on a daily basis. Creatives, people who earn money with e-commerce, developers, and bloggers. Because the next conference brings these people together every year, I'm today opening, as it were, an expert forum for relationship management. In fact, the most important one in Europe. Our highly responsible task is to reflect the light and the dark sides between people and data, and to develop concepts for the future. With this in mind, I would like to hereby open the next 11, wish all of you success and exciting, productive days in Berlin. So enjoy Berlin, stay away from alcohol and hotel roommates. And I hand over to my co-chairman, Matthias Schrader. Thank you very much.